Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today on the Business Leaders Spotlight. We are featuring William McBay, or as he likes to be called, Bill. And Bill's going to talk a little bit about his bio. So I just wanted to say that the format for today is an open format in terms of we're going to chat a little bit about the pandemic in terms of the impact on financial planning for people. Bill will address also his new book, Myths and Truths, which is doing extremely well, and the background on that, and open it up for a Q&A for everyone to ask any questions they would like. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Bill. And first question, of course, is Bill, for anyone on here that may not know you, could you recap a little bit about yourself, your history, and how you came into the financial world as an expert?
Well, thanks, Laura. Thanks for having me as well. I think it's great to have these opportunities to speak to you and to share the good word and the good work that the financial planners in general, and of course those as part of my team, are doing through this time. So, well, I think I get into financial planning the way that most people do. I was a disc jockey, and so after many years of running a successful entertainment company, I said I didn't want to work 7 days a week, so I wanted to get into something that would give me some more future flexibility, and financial planning was where it was. And so I started with Mutual Life 24 years ago. They changed their name to Clerica and then got bought out by Sun Life, and here we are.
Right.
Throughout that time, it's just been an entire career of education. And so throughout my career with Mutual and Clerica, and even into the early years of Sun Life, I had worked with different partners on my own in different institutions. And it wasn't until 2012 when I realized that it was time to start off on my own. And that's when T.E.A.M Financial was started. And T.E.A.M is an acronym. So for those of you who can see behind me, wherever that, I guess on this side, T.E.A.M is an acronym for To Educate and Mentor. And it's pretty awesome actually to redesign yourself with experience. So I was 16 years in the business, and I was able to say, what do I want to be in this business? So I didn't start from scratch and know what I know now. I would say I wasn't born 49, I guess, 49 years old. So as you go through your career, you learn some things, and you learn some things about yourself. So T.E.A.M actually, to educate and mentor is, I believe, what we do with our clients. It's what I want to do with our clients. It's what I found out through some self-reflection that we did do with our clients. And so that's where T.E.A.M came from. And we continually educate and mentor our clients, and also internally. Our team of advisors are all educated with their certified financial planner, so CFP designation, and even our staff recently received their Lana with her RRC, and our office manager Gail with her CEA, so the Certified Executors Advisor. So we try and live our brand internally and externally, and so that led me as well to the book. And if I wanted to educate more people on financial literacy, I guess I'd have to work more. I guess I'd have to see more clients. We already see a number of our clients. We're a very busy firm. And so just being realistic that I can't see more people. So how could I take our message and continue to multiply that? And the book came. So as we started to talk about the book, we wanted to put some of the key messages and concepts in it that we share with clients every day, and then they can take it home and read it on their own, and hopefully share it with people, and create this environment of education learning to increase the overall financial literacy in Canada. So that's where the book came from.
I think it's amazing. Now, this is the second book in a series. Is that right?
It is the second edition of the same book. So okay. The book was written, I guess almost 7 years ago now. And then in our industry, it's very difficult to get some of these things approved. With financial planners in Canada, every financial planner has to have a company that sponsors their license and holds them accountable for compliance and privacy and whatnot. So for me, again, that was Mutual Life, Clerica, and now Sun Life. So in order to be hold yourself out as an author, you need to be approved by the company. So when I wrote the book back in, well, 7 years ago, Sun Life was going through a lot of changes, and they couldn't really see past the changes they were doing to allow me to publish the book. So it sat. And again, I was running my business at the time. So I didn't really, it wasn't my full-time focus. It was something I always said I wanted to do. So it kind of sat on the back burner. And then it wasn't until COVID happened that, ended up having some extra time on my hands. So as I was working from home and isolating from the rest of the world, I decided to poke that bear again. And that's when we get this book, the one that you see today, when it, I guess, yeah, the one that is out today was actually published. And so there is a new, I thought it would only be right to add some new information to it and update it. So it is a second edition. It talks about market volatility in a virtual global pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Did anyone have a comment on that? Wasn't sure if someone was trying to speak. That's okay. So amazing stuff that you're doing. I love the fact that you're taking your financial expertise and your background to a higher level of mentoring and helping people, because I do find that there is a high degree of illiteracy with finances. I mean, you talk to various people, and a lot of people are living day to day or even in debt, right? And they don't know where to start. So something like this is just amazing that you are helping people out. I wanted to ask a little bit about shift gears to the pandemic, because there's been a lot of financial hardship, unfortunately, through the pandemic. And just wondering what you've heard from clients. What are people facing these days, and how can they get out of hardship or build a future that might be a little bit more positive for themselves, knowing that we have had some setbacks, obviously. Not everyone, but a lot of people have had some setbacks. So how do you plan for the future when you're just kind of going day to day even right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've said many times over the past year that COVID really has increased the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And so we have, if you were lucky enough to continue to be working and working from home, granted, but you and your partner or yourself still have a job, you still have an income, well, you're probably not spending as much, so you're probably pocketing more money. And then on top of that, your house, all of our homes just went up in value. So if you're a homeowner, so you also had the increased value there. And I'm looking at talking to some of my peers in the last couple of days. We're around the 1 year mark of some of the deepest dives in the market during COVID, and we're seeing 1 year rates of return of 50+%, and that's from the bottom up. So you can see what it did for people that maybe did the right thing with their investments and just held on tight, as hard as that was at some points to think that the world was not ending. It's really tough. Now, to your question about what about the people that are the have-nots and that are having struggles, that are now maybe not buying a home or didn't have a home, now still have to buy a home, or lost their job, or maybe lost their home, God forbid, because they lost their job, then there's never been a better time to talk with a professional advisor. And I think the one thing that people get from my book, or I've been told that the resounding message is, you need to have an advisor, somebody to help you along the way. And so that is what I would suggest. Those people that have been affected, talk to an advisor. And in fact, even in the book, I talked to the fact that you don't need to have $1 million to have an advisor, right? I mean, I probably would have thought that a long time ago. Oh, I don't have enough money to get a financial advisor. And I'm going to say the exact opposite. You need to have a financial advisor. Like one of the things that I think we forget is what money does instead of what money can buy, right? I think the difference between being good financially and not is understanding what the value of a dollar is. So what it can do for you versus what it can buy for you. For example, if your net worth is under $100,000, you can actually save more money by your lifestyle choices than you can by actually investing that money. If you
Mm-hmm.
invested, $100,000 at 7%, right? You're getting $7,000. But if you actually, you know, reduce your rent by $300 and go out to eat a little bit less and save $300, you've just put that much money into your net worth.
Right.
So it's a little bit about both. Sometimes it's not just about spending or about saving; it is about spending. So that's why when you don't have it, it's a really good time to talk to an advisor and get you started to make the right choices.
Well, the old saying is a penny saved is a penny earned, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's, yeah, and it's true through the pandemic too. A lot of people were saying they weren't spending as much. They weren't traveling. They weren't, maybe going out to restaurants as much, maybe even not even shopping as much. So a lot of people were finding they were putting more money in the bank. And what would you say to someone like that who said, I found myself kind of with an extra 5 to 10,000 in the bank, which surprised me. Um,
Yeah.
and where do you start with someone like that? Are you looking at putting them in mutual funds, in RSPs, and GICs, into the market, into certain tools, or do you do a risk analysis with them and it's custom, or what do you suggest they do with that?
Yeah. The first thing I do with somebody like that is I give them a high five because I
Mm,
think they've just, they found money and so they can do it. And,
mhm.
it's the little train that could. So they say, when everything's coming in and an advisor or a budget analysis comes back and says, you need to save some money, people go, I don't know, like, I don't want to give that up. And then all of a sudden it's taken from you. And you're like, oh, I'm still alive. I'm doing okay. And I just saved 10 grand or 6 grand or whatever it is. So, a high five is where we start. And then after that, yes, it's very individual. You know, I had a conversation with my children the other day and I said, so just got a little bit harder for you guys getting a house, right? So we're going to have to be a little bit more creative, but I said, it's not impossible. Wouldn't it be nice if you and the two of you can live together? And I get the eye roll, right? But eventually they're like, yeah, maybe we could. But then I found out that they're both going to separate parts of the country. So that's not going to work. But it would be very unique to the person. So for example, if the person that saved 6, 10 grand could turn it around and help start off one of their children into something, or whether this is found money they wanted to increase the overall value of their house and do some renovations, or save, if this is the difference between them working to 65 or working to 64 because they've got enough time to let compound interest work, it would be very, very unique to that person. And to that point, I should say that we're planners more than investment advisors. So oftentimes the term advisor gets thrown around like
Mhm.
way too much. And so they say, no, I have an advisor. I deal with this company. And I'm like, well, that's an investment company. When was the last time they actually did a plan for you? Or I deal with the bank or what have you. And it's like, well, when was the last time they asked you about your goals for your children, or your goals, or your parents' goals, and healthcare issues? So definitely planning first is how we operate. So that would be unique to that person.
Love it. Thank you. Well, I was going to say, it's funny that you mentioned children and even starting them early. I have an 11-year-old son, and the other day we were in a convenience store that's also a gas bar, and the owner offered him a job. And Tyler, my son's eyes just kind of widened. He said, "Job? Why would I work?" And I thought, this is awesome. You are so going to work. And so we, start early, right?
Yeah.
Just giving kids, even at that early stage, the responsibility. So you were talking about your kids, and we've got an RESP for Tyler. He had it opened up at 6 months old, and it's now well over $10,000. Not a ton, but a start. But it's those kinds of things. Someone did advise us to get started early, because before you know it, they're 19 and you don't have $25,000, $30,000 perhaps that you've set aside. So if the government's willing to match, right, that's a great tool, for example. But yeah, it's good to get your kids thinking early too. Um,
Yeah.
Switching gears, there's a question from the audience I just wanted to address, Bill, from Kate Neff. Her point is, it's less intimidating to deal with the bank. How do you appeal to someone who doesn't know why they should speak with a financial advisor?
Well, I think what we would Well, that's a lot of pieces to that question, Kate. So let me make sure I touch on all of them. I think for the person that doesn't think they need to be into talking to a financial advisor, they're going to enjoy it more. They're really going to enjoy it more because it's going to be like that Disney song, "A Whole New World," because we're going to go through and take you through the conversation and ask you questions. And there's going to be some blue sky. When do you want to retire? How much do you want? What does that look like? If you were retired today, and how much do you want to spend? What kind of house do you want to live in? So we use tools about conversation. And then we can also break into more like vision boards with people just to kind of get them thinking about what it is that they want. And it's not about money all the time. In fact, let me say this, it's never about the money to start. People will come to us sometimes and say, oh, I have money, I need to invest. Of course, we always do that. We'll do what the client wants first, but then we'll drag them to what they need later. So we may invest their money and then go back and have the conversation, or during the process of investing that money, ask them, what's it for? Tell me a little bit about that. I think my kids, Brandon, my son, he wanted to buy a car, of course, a young kid, 16 years old. He's like, Dad, I want to buy a car. And so let's go, let's go buy a car. And I said, I am not taking you, with shiny object syndrome to a shiny car lot to try and pick out a car. I said, I want you to go research the cars, the colors, the types, the interior design, everything that you want, and bring me back a vision board of what you think and then we'll go out and we'll
That's
look at them
awesome.
online, and then we'll go out to a car. Like I said, I can't take you out there. It's going to be messy for both of us. We probably will have to, you'll have to hitchhike home because we won't be speaking at the end of it. But so I think that, you know, I don't know if I answered your question, Kate, either, because just the fact that you've said it's less intimidating to deal with the bank makes me sad, because we know that it's a big deal for some people to come out of their house and meet with us. This is one of the changes that happened with COVID, which is a positive one. Before, I always say to my team, when we have clients in front of us, we have to remember they left their cozy couch, their TV, their comfort place to come into our office and sit with us and talk numbers and things that really are outside of what most people. We talk about death, we talk about dying, but we also talk about investing and cash and what it can buy. So I said we really have to make sure that it's a soft approach, and it's a conversation we just kind of lead them along the way. And I know that any bank I've ever been into has been very sterile. So I go in and it's whether it's a big green chair, it's a blue and red or whatever it is, it just seems very sterile. And so I would hope that we're not intimidating, but I'm sorry if that's the case, Kate. But call me. We'll make it less intimidating if you want. And I believe the answer to the second half is everyone should deal with an advisor.
I've always loved the experience because it's so personal and it's custom. Whenever I've considered a planner, they sit down, they understand my unique needs and where I want to go. And I find that it's not part of a big machine. I don't feel like a transaction. I feel like a great relationship starts with a person that really cares. And, if at any point my financial situation changes, I feel like I can pick up the phone and have a conversation with that person, as opposed to with a person at a large bank. So personally, I always found it less intimidating. But I like that personal attention, right? I always feel that goes a lot further.
But
so
one of the chapters in the book, and one of the very first chapters, which I think the second one, is about finding your advisor and making sure that the advisor fits for you. And that is really, like, we haven't really talked about this, and maybe this will help answer your question more, Kate, is I think the idea is it's only going to be intimidating if you're with the wrong person. I don't suggest that I should be everybody's advisor. I don't think any of my team are that advisor that can be an advisor for everybody. You really need to invest the time and energy to actually interview your advisor. In fact, in the book, I give a list of interview questions so that when you do find your advisor or your potential advisors, that you can interview them and ask them questions to find out if they work or if it's going to work for you, if it's going to be a good fit. And I think that's so important. People for years and years would say, well, I'm dealing with this person because my parents did, or, I'm dealing with this person because it's the bank down the street from my house, it's close to go to, or drive by it every day. I'm not suggesting that that's completely wrong, but if you looked at it more like, I need somebody that I can talk to, right? I need somebody that's going to listen to me. I need a good listener, right? Not a jargon talker, right? Like an acronym speaker. I want somebody that actually understands and speaks in a language that I speak in. So it's very, very important. And if you find that person, then the intimidation factor is gone.
Absolutely. So let's talk about myths and truths a bit. I want to do a bit of a dive on that. The book is amazing because not only is it great in terms of aligning with your goals of educating and mentoring, but also it has a charitable component that I just think is so admirable and brilliant that you took this on. So wanted just to get an idea of how the charity part works from your perspective.
So the charity is it's a cool story. I've always been involved in not-for-profits through service clubs and doing other charity events and whatnot. So it's always been philanthropy has been close to my heart for my life. That being said, when I wrote the book, when I started writing this book, it was because I had a bucket list of let's write a book. And one of the things that I did early on in my career, and I continue to do it, is I write my obituary quite regularly, and see what that turns out with, and then make sure I can work it backwards. And one of the things in one of my earlier obituaries was author. And so I thought, I didn't know at the time what book I was going to write, but eventually it showed itself, and here we are. So that being said, I had this book, and it's like the dog who chased the car and then caught the car and said, now what do you do? So I wrote this book, and I had all this information in there. And did I really want to go out and be a book salesperson? Do I really want to get, but I need the information to be out there. It's really important for me to increase the level of financial literacy in Canada, to share that message. So how do I do that? Well, the best way is to integrate my love for charity and nonprofit with this financial literacy, and donate the profits of the book to charities and have them sell it. And so if I'm not taking anything back from the sales of the book, then there's money there for them to fundraise. As somebody who's often done fundraisers before, I know finding a unique fundraiser is oftentimes a challenge. So to have a book, it created the ultimate win-win-win. So we've got financial literacy being created, the message being put out, and the book being read, and then you've got the charities earning some money there. So right now we're dealing with 4 major charities. We just brought on a new one recently.
Congratulations.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's a unique charity, a not-for-profit group, is Sigma Chi. It's a fraternity in University of Waterloo. So these gentlemen raise money for their own use, but they also raise it for the Waterloo Rotary Club. So they're selling the book for us and donating the funds to Waterloo Rotary Club. So it's even another level of win there. And the Heart and Stroke, bereaved families of Midwestern Ontario, and my own service club, because they wanted to raise some money there, and it's the Kin Club of Woolwich. So they provide services for the community in Woolwich Township.
I have a copy of the book. I just wanted to show people who may not be familiar with it. I don't know if it'll show up with my screen.
Here, let me, I can give you something here. There.
Thank you. Awesome. So that's the book we are speaking about, everybody. So we worked with Bill on his website, Myths and Truths. And I can also, if anyone is interested, I can leave that in the notes, actually, or email it out later to all the participants. But if you want to find out more, certainly that's one way to do it. Jump on the website because all the information is there. But love the book. I've read it. It really opened my eyes. I thought that financially I was pretty much on track in terms of my knowledge and just working with different financial planners over the years. But as a mother now, it helped me kind of see things differently and even teach and my own son, mentor him a little bit. So it gave me inspiration to teach him a little bit. So I think kind of teenagers should be reading this book, to be honest, because
But yeah,
I,
this is
I
funny you said that.
yeah.
I had a gentleman the other day, and he read it, and he's retired, has done very very well, retired accountant, and he said, I went through and read your book. He says, he says, there wasn't anything in there that I didn't know at a high level, but some of the ways that you talk about it was unique. But then he gave it to his children, and he says, I think they're really going to be able to use that. So and even with the Sigma Chi fraternity, I think that's a great place to get in and get started early, and so that the book can get people focused on the right direction.
Yes. I mean, I think it would make a great Easter present, right? For kids, for
Yeah,
teenagers.
exactly.
Instead of buying
Yeah,
them chocolate, buy them a book that'll help their future.
exactly. Then they
So
can buy their own chocolate.
there you go. That's right. Love it. So, wanted to open up the discussion now to all of our attendees. Thank you, everyone, for attending today, all the participants that jumped in. I see some familiar names. I'm sure Bill does as well. But love the participation and just want to invite anyone now to ask any questions. All questions are great questions because everyone has the opportunity to learn. And so please feel free to raise a hand. You can unmute your mic and fire away any questions for Bill or myself.
Try not to do it all at once.
Yep, don't rush in.
Yeah. Teresa.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Bill, what you said about Kate's comment that I think as financial advisors, we don't think of ourselves as being intimidating or for people to come here. And so I often wonder about that and how is it that we can get to the Joe Public, and say, boy, this is how you find an advisor. And I think that's what's great about your book is that it's helping people find the easy steps to find an advisor. And then what should they be asking for in an advisor? So I commend you on doing that because I think that sometimes they go to their bank because that's what's around the corner. That's where when I was younger, I had to go to cash my check.
That's
So
right.
there was a familiarity with that, but I realized, okay, there's another step here, but which way do I go? And so having a book like that sort of helps people to say, okay, this is how it's done.
Yeah. Well, thanks for, and we're also in this new world where we've got do-it-yourself brokerages. You can buy insurance online. You could probably Google, a handful of different places where you can do a mock-up retirement plan or growth analysis for investments, showing compound interest. And for me to sit back and say everyone should be dealing with a human, I mean, I believe that everyone should take advantage of the education and the experience of an advisor. You don't necessarily even have to pay for it. This is what I think a lot of people is forget or maybe just don't understand is that you can have a conversation. Teresa and I talk about leaving the candy in the hallway. We just give away all this information because we're so passionate about it, and then people will take it and go on. That's what this book is for. You can do a lot of things in the comfort of your own home, but at least you'll have this as a guide. And if you choose to go find an advisor, then even better. But if you don't, you can take some of the concepts straight out of this book and get it done. And what I should go back to, even before this book was started, when I knew I was going to write a book, and I alluded to it earlier, I knew I was going to write a book. I just didn't know what it was going to be about. And the first book, concept book that I started writing, and it got switched to this one halfway through just because the project evolved, was called Lost, and it was based on what to do when you lose someone. And this will answer the question: is why is the Bereaved Families of Midwestern Ontario one of your charities? Because death and dying it's a big part of why I'm here. One of the first clients I ever had when I started was my parents. They wanted to help me out in this new business I was starting. And unfortunately, 15 months later or 18 months later, my father was my first death claim. And so I saw very firsthand what a good financial plan can do. And so, but I also see now firsthand what a no financial plan does,
Right.
and how messy it is. And then try and have a conversation with someone when they just lost their loved one, their spouse, their grandparent, their parent, their uncle, aunt, cousin, and God forbid a child, and to try and say, okay, well now we got to do that. You're not in a great frame of mind. So the other thing that I wanted this book to do was to be there when you can read it on your own, when you can say, I don't want to go into an office right now. I don't even want to get out of bed. Like the grief is just taken over. So what can I do? And I thought, if I can create a tool that will allow people to do that and sit in the comfort of their own home during their grieving time and get some questions answered, then I can check that box. And so then it just started, well, there's also times when, before people get married, they may not do the right things. And we talk about that. Before they buy a house, they may not do the right things. We talk about that. They may just, anyway, anything that we do in our lifestyle changes is a time to go and revisit your financial situation. And if you're not seeing with an advisor, read the book, then you can at least have that.
I think also, Bill, just having plain everyday talk and telling this with stories, it's not like it's numbers and credits and debits and sheets like that a lot of people are overwhelmed by. So it's just plain steps about simple things that you can do that make a big difference down the road. So I appreciate your sense of humor in the book. And the fact that you are telling stories, and some people can see themselves in those stories.
Yeah, because we're storytellers. We need to be storytellers, I think, to get the message across.
Yes, from a marketing perspective, on that point, storytelling is the new marketing. Everybody is opening up about their stories. There used to be a time when people were kind of very quiet about they kept their personal and professional life very separate, and it was almost very cold. But now people do want to know that there are humans out there that are authentic, that are real, that have a story. I don't know about you, but I watch Shark Tank quite a bit. One of my favorite shows. And I love the backstory of the people, because if they just came on and just sold their idea, I don't think it would mean as much. But I love when the sharks say, how did you get into this? And then inevitably there's tears, and these people are so vulnerable and so passionate. But I love the fact that they do have a story, and it actually makes the whole concept seem a lot more enticing. And I think that's true for anything. Coming from a marketing background, with a lot of our clients, we dive into the story of the person behind the business, because people want to know that it's a real human being and not just someone who's going to process them. They want to be able to relate to them, right? They want to empathize with their story, say, I can see some of me in that story or not, or wow, I'm impressed by that person's story. But gosh, we're all humans. And, especially now with the pandemic, we are dealing with people through computers. It's so one-dimensional. They talk about, fatigue, social media fatigue, for example. So the more we can break through with our stories, and that goes for kind of everyone on the screen, the more important it is. So that's why I love what you're doing with the book, Bill, because it also humanizes to a large extent what you're doing, and it's your mission and your vision. And to be honest, the passion that you have for the business comes through your book, and everything you're doing with the book. So, I really commend you on that. There's not a lot of people writing a book is not easy. I've had a lot of people venture into it, and it's a big task to take on. So that's amazing.
My biggest fear of writing my book was having one of my English teachers read it. I was always worried. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to want to get this graded or not. But I had a really great editor and that I worked with, so that it was actually a fear of mine to because the concepts, everything that's in this book is what we talk to clients every single day about. So it was very easy to regurgitate, but nobody wants to read a regurgitation of just raw data and information. They want to have a flow to it. And so that was the hardest part. I probably dictated. So I dictated most of the book to begin with. And so would dictate for 20, 30, 40 minutes, and then I would set it aside, and then I would come back and edit that, and then I would dictate some more. And, it was kind of a fun process. In fact, I wish I had, this one would have been done in time for me to write the next one during COVID, because I could dictate a lot while I walk. And I did a lot of walking during COVID and continue to. So that's how the next one's going to be written.
Well, that's a great process, because a lot of people kind of get caught up in the typing and the writing of it. And so their thoughts kind of get interrupted. I see there's a question from Chanel. Go ahead, Chanel, ask your question, please.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I was just wondering if you could, or maybe if you did, learn anything about finances through the pandemic, and maybe what those things were and what you would tell someone to plan for in case of hopefully not another pandemic, but an emergency situation.
Question. So one of the things that we do with clients is we try to make sure that there is, well, we'll talk about retirees. So there's different stages that everyone goes through in their financial planning lifetime. And so there's the accumulation stage where, you're buying into the market. So you're saving into your RSPs, TFSAs, whatever that may look like. And then there's the deaccumulation. So you're retired now and you're starting to draw out the money from your investments. And for those clients, we try to keep some money that is less associated with the market. So in other words, it's not going to be affected greatly in a very deep dive volatile market, similar to what happened in March and April last year. So we would normally try and keep at least 1 year aside of what their income would be into something that is secure, guaranteed in some cases, but definitely secure. So more of an income portfolio. The pandemic has changed that to 3 years. So we want to be able to have 3 years, and that's not because I think that 3 years is going to be like, if the market falls out. There was no time, I should say it this way, there was not one moment during the pandemic where I thought it was going to take 3 years for the market to come back up. And of course now we know it took less than 1 year, about 9 months. So why would we learn from that we need 3 years? Because it would be nice to have that there to invest into the market as well and take advantage of it. Because the retirees, or those living off their investments, that were able to take some money off the side from that guaranteed investment and buy into the market when it was low, have done so well. So I think that's the one thing that we've learned, is we want to make sure that we have at least 2 to 3 years of income available for these retirees, so that if there's another pandemic, because this may have been the first one in my life, but I don't think it's going to be the last one. And so we need to be prepared for that.
Great. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, awesome.
Bill, do you ever get people come to you and say, I'm self-employed and, I don't have a pension, don't even know if I'll get CPP. Help me put together a plan so I'm not working till I'm 80. Do you have people that come and ask you to guide them and set them up right for retirement that won't leave them poor, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, like every day. There's, it's funny talking to somebody who has a pension versus somebody who doesn't have a pension, and the way that they think of money is very different. And everyone has a personality of their money there, and whether that's as simple as spenders and savers, or guaranteed or high risk. But everyone has their personality of what they believe money is. And so when you say somebody that doesn't have a pension versus somebody who's building a business like you and I, who we don't have a pension, so if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it. So we have to take our I think then the conversation is very much around what does it look like? What does your retirement look like? The old days, people would work for 25 years. They get the cake, get the golden watch, the handshake, and then they'd go out and golf for 2 years and die of a massive heart attack on the golf course. And that was it, right? Or they would go on and have their pensions and live forever. Now people are saying, you know what, I'm going to retire partially when I'm 55, and then I'm only going to work 7 months of the year. Or so we got to figure that part out first, and then work it backwards into how much you're going to have to put aside. And a lot of times with the business owners, the part I love working with business owners is they have you tell an employee that they have to save more, they think, I got to get another job. I've got to take on more hours. I've got to get that raise I haven't been given. But when you tell a business owner they need to put more money aside, they say, I got to come up with a new product. I've got to hire a new employee that can create more opportunities for me. So it's a much more exciting conversation. And being a self-employed entrepreneur myself, those conversations are a lot more fun.
That resonates for me big time. Thank you.
Yeah. It's not about retiring. I remember when I retired Sundays. So when I started this business, I was 7 days a week. And then the first thing I did is I retired Sundays. And then I retired Saturdays. And so I was working only 5 days a week. And in the last year, I've retired Friday afternoons year round. But now, in the summer, I retire Fridays, every Friday. So I'm trying to make it so that I can do this for a long time, but that means I have to be good to myself and find balance.
Absolutely. So just a few more minutes here before I kind of do the random draw for the 3 books. Does anybody else have any questions for Bill or myself today? And if not, that's fine. Everyone has my contact information, and our company is NexGEN Marketing Group. We've been doing the Business Spotlight for 3 months now, and every month we focus a new leader. So we are always on the hunt for amazing new people to feature like Bill. And it's our way of giving back as well, to really celebrate the people that are making a difference, that are positive, that are helping other people like Bill. So NexGEN Spotlight will continue up until December of 2021. And we've got a full lineup, but a few spots open if anyone is interested in that. So I wanted just to award the 3 books that are signed by Bill that I have in my possession, and I will send to 3 lucky people. So I've already written the names down, and in no particular order. Nick, I don't know if Nick can unmute, but Nick, you have been awarded a book.
There you go.
All right. And the other one is Kate.
Thank you very much, both Bill and Lori. Greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome, Nick. Enjoy.
And Kate, she says woohoo in the comments. Thank you, Kate.
Awesome.
And Mary Thompson has been awarded a book as well.
Excellent.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. My lucky day.
So yeah, everyone go out and buy a lottery ticket. I will make sure that each of you get a copy of Bill's book in the mail. I'll reach out to you because I know people, everyone that's been on this call. So I'll reach out and get this out to you. And once again, just want to thank Bill today for his amazing insights, his time, and everything that you're doing. And Bill, you know what? You'll be getting a call from me because I'm very inspired by what you're doing. I'm very impressed. And, I'm at that point in my life where I'd like to chat a little bit about planning for my son's future. So you'll be hearing from me, and I'm sure there's others that are going to reach out as well. So thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. And thank you everyone for attending, for your questions, for your attention. And if you want a recording of this, I will be posting it on NexGEN's social media platform if you'd like to share it out with anyone. But thanks again, everyone, for your time. I know your time is precious, and we feel very gracious that you chose to spend some time with us today.
Excellent. Thank you, Lori. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lori. Thanks, Bill.
Thank
You
you.
bet. Thanks. Take care and enjoy the book.
Goodbye. Have a great day, everyone.